Hello everybody! Welcome to another video from Code Shots with Profanis. I'm super excited about Angular Typed Reactive Forms, a feature that will be released in the next version, which is the 14th. But I couldn't wait and decided to share it with you right away. So subscribe and let's get started. Since I am about to present a new feature, the typed forms of Angular 14, and since we have the standalone components also in the Angular 14, why not create a component, a standalone component, and use it with forms? Yeah, it sounds a good idea. So I will do the following. I will create a new component named users, and for this one I want to create it like a standalone. If we click tab, we can see a bunch of options here, and here we can see that we have the standalone. So I will type standalone, click enter, and if we go now here, we can see that we have the users, the HTML, CSS, spec.ts, and .ts. Nice. So let's go to the source code. And what we can see here is that we have the imports common module and also the flag standalone equals to true. So our goal for this video is to present the reactive forms. And for reactive forms, we have to import the reactive forms module. And also, we will need some more modules from material. So let's import these as well. Let's start with the basics, meaning that let's see how to create a typed form control. I will name it username, and the type is going to be a form control of type string. We'll have the generic implementation here. And also let's initialize this new form control of type string, and the default value will be empty. So we don't need even this here. So here we have the username. Now let's go to the users component HTML and create a mat form field. And this is the username, and instead of form control name, we need to have here the form control and apply a binding. And just for debugging purposes, let's have here the username.value. Let's share the application and go to the browser to see what we have. But before we go to the browser, what we have to do is the following. Here we have the app user selector, and also we have the users component class name. So let's go to the app module, and instead of declaring the component, what we're going to do is to import the component. Remember, this is a standalone component. And also we need to have here the selector, which is the app users, and let's go to the app component HTML and paste it here. Now let's go to the browser. So it seems that it works just fine. So we'll have the Profanis here and Profanis here. But you know what? This is not something new, right? This is something that we have already seen in reactive forms. The difference here though is that we have this generic type. This means that if we want to patch the value, let's give it a try, this username dot patch value, here we have to define only a value of type string. So if I type, for example, the number 1, and let's go to the browser, here we have number 1, which is a string value. But if I try to enter a number, we have a compilation error. This is very cool. However, if we change the string to number, this will work, and of course we'll have to change this as well. So let's now continue and create, instead of form control, create a form group. So I will delete this as well, and I will create here a form, and the type of this form will be a form group. This will be a generic one, and inside here I will create my object, and I want this form, and having in mind that this is a users form, I will create the username, and the type of this will be a form control of type string, and then I'm going to have the first name, and again a form control of type string, the last name, a form control of type string. And enough with strings, let's create also a form control which is of type number. So let's now go to the constructor and initialize this. For the initialization, I will use the form builder. So private FB, which is the form builder. And what we will do is this form equals to this FB. And now what we can do is the following. We have the option of non-nullable. Well, the non-nullable option marks the controls as, well, non-nullable, which means that the controls won't accept a null value. So what will happen then if we reset the form? Remember, whenever we reset the form controls has the null value. But how about if our form is non-nullable? Since we cannot set a null to the controls, the reset applies the initial values to the controls, which is a very good one. So the non-nullable, apart that it set the controls as non-nullable, it also marks them with the property initial value is default to true. So I will continue with the non-nullable and we will see the details later. So let's create here a group. And if I control space, we can see that we have the age, first name, last name, and username. And also this should be this FB non-nullable control. And I will type, for example, here Profanis. And I will fast forward the video to create the rest of the fields. So we have created our form and we can see that this form has the username, first name, last name, age, and these are the values. If I delete the age, we can see that we have a compilation error here, says that the age is missing. So let's revert this back. And now let's go to the HTML and start filling in the form. Again, I will fast forward this process. Okay, let's go to the browser to see what we have. We have here the Profanis, Fanis, Prodromo, and 123. And this is the JSON that we have. And everything seems to work just fine. So let's now think the following. So we currently have the Profanis, Fanis, Prodromo, and how about, these are the default values, right? So how about if we have data coming from the HTTP? So let's create here a method, and this method, I will name it load from HTTP. And what we have to do is to patch the value. So to patch the value, this form patch value. And inside here in the object, we can see that we have to define the age, first name, last name, and username. So the age will be 456. The first name will be George. The last name will be Papa. And the username will be Geopa. Let's also create a button here in the users component HTML so that we can invoke the load from HTTP. The cool thing with the typed forms is that, for example, here, even into the patch value, we cannot add into the age a string value. Immediately, we can see that we have a compilation error. So it has to be a number. And the same goes here in the first name. We cannot add a number. It has to be a string because this is what we have defined here. Number for the age and string for the other form controls. So let's now go to the browser, and here we have the default values, which is Profanis, Fanis, Prodromo, and 123. And if I click this button, the load from HTTP, we have successfully patched the value. And now let's create one more button here, and this will reset the value. So below the button, I will create another button and we'll invoke a method reset. So let's go and create this reset method as well. This form.reset. So remember here that the Profanis, Fanis, Prodromo, and 123 are the default values. And these are the values that came from HTTP. So these are the default values. If I click the load from HTTP, we can see we have Geopa, George, Papa, 456. And if I reset, we have again the default values. And this is possible because whenever we set the non-nullable, it automatically set the initial value is default to true. So let's remove the non-nullable from the age to see what is happening. If we remove this, we can see that we have here a compilation error, and this says that that the age should be nullable as well. So let's go into the form control and say this, that the age, apart from the number, accepts a null as well. So what will happen now if we reset the form? So when we reset the form, we can see that the age has the value null. So if we do not want to have the value null there, we'll have the option either to have the non-nullable or to set the initial value is default to true manually. But if we do so, again, we'll have a compilation error which says that, you know what, the age is non-nullable, so remove this. And now let's see what we have again. And if we reset, we can see that we have 1, 2, 3. Having the typed forms helps in many ways, and we can even have the correct types when we add dynamically controls. This is just a short example, this form dot. Let's say that I want to dynamically create a new control, and the name of the control should be age, first name, last name, and username. So the control that I'm going to create should be compliant with my type here. And the value should be a form control, and we can see that this is of type string, it's non-nullable. So this FB non-nullable, and I'm going to create a control, and the value would be whatever. So even when we dynamically create the controls, we have a strict type. So this is how we use the forms. And if you have a very big form, this might become a very big and most probably hard to read. So why not, we can create here an interface, and I will name it user form. And this user form, since this is a generic type, we can extend this. So this guy extends the form group, and now we can use the user form here, which is the same thing, right? And we can validate this. If we go to the browser, we can see that everything works just fine. So that was it. Thanks for watching. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and do not forget to subscribe and click the ring bell. See you in the next video.